Our executive director, Elise, is out running around trying to wrap up some final arrangements for our gala, so she apologizes for not being here. So anyway, we're thrilled to have Nicki Schuh. She is the president and owner of Schuh Business Development Services. And she today is going to talk about how to help us keep more customers, get new customers, and retain our current customers. Nicki began Schuh Business Development Services as she consulted to companies on strategic marketing and development of action plans suitable for small and mid-sized businesses. Her areas of expertise are in advising professional service firms in the blend of traditional and interactive marketing with personal business development plans for principals. Nicki has an accounting degree from the University of Wisconsin and an MBA, very impressive, from the Kellogg School of Business, Northwestern. So she knows everything.
Oh, yeah. Right.
She is the relationship expert.
Never say that.
Now we're going to know everything.
Yeah.
And a CPA. And she sits on some boards of Rainbows and the Executive Guild, teaches Sunday school, and is an active networker in several organizations, including our Chamber Networking 3x2. Welcome, Nicki.
Good. Okay, thank you. I have a presentation that obviously our machines are not working, so I'm passing out hard copies. For those of you, there are a couple of larger print versions if you have trouble reading the little print of the other one, but I'm in a save paper mode to not use up resources we don't have. When we talked about retention, it's really sometimes an understatement to say that we don't work hard enough at retaining our current customers. So this is really focused on what can you do to keep those customers, keep them engaged, and how can you move that forward. So we're not going to talk as much about the acquisition, but we are going to talk about defining a plan that will get you results in terms of retaining your current customers and how you do that. So the three areas I'd like to hit today, we can talk here a little bit about a personal business development plan. First, I'd like to talk about the client adoption cycle, and that has changed dramatically over time. And so I'm going to gear it to the smaller businesses, exactly where those changes have happened. Second, we're going to really talk about customer retention. We talk about what it is, how do you get there, and what do we have to do to get a plan together to actually retain people. Hey, Joe. And then a personal business development plan. This is something that I am really always working with my clients from a professional services standpoint, particularly, but it also applies anywhere. How do you stay focused on business development without letting everything else overrun your week or your month? So we're going to do a little exercise as it relates to that. So let's start. If you look at the client adoption cycle, some of you have seen this before. This is a derivative of the old Porter model. What we're talking about is before a customer is going to be a client today, or a prospect, I should say, be a client today, they go through 4 stages. You need to look at when you're talking to clients or contacts, what stage are they in? First, they have to be aware that you even exist, that your services are XYZ, that you as a person do this. They have to have awareness. There's several areas in here, and I think most of us know what these areas are, but the big difference that we have to put our minds around is that things have changed from print to digital, and they've also changed in terms of reaching the contacts or the prospects for your business has gotten much more complex in the last 5 to 10 years. Advertising has changed dramatically. I think we all see that on television. You see that in print. It's very easy. But the other is we have to adjust our focus and our way of doing business to be where the customers are and how they will hear about us. Networking for professionals, networking for many businesses has replaced many of the other areas. Search is extremely important if you're retail or a professional services. And when I say search, I'm going to throw LinkedIn into that search. Because before people come to meet with you or want to understand your product or service portfolio, get to know you, they're going to check you out on Google, on if you're in any organizations, they may check there, and as well as LinkedIn. So the awareness part of building your business is very critical to adapt your initiatives to that. Second is a trial. There is a point in time where a customer calls and says, you know, I'm going to place an order, or I'd like to know more about this. That's the trial. It's the first real time that they have spent with you in your business. Great opportunity to do really well or to fail. Key here is, what do you do at that stage to engage them, to help explain what it is you do and how it's going to help them. You, at that point, if in fact the client is open, and particularly, again, professional services are when you're sitting one-on-one with individuals versus a retail situation. What's their need? We've all heard of need selling, solution selling. I'm not going to go into that, but I'm going to tell you that at this phase in the trial, it's like dating. They're just starting to look at you. If you're in the retail trade, the statistics now prove they will be on an internet site 6 to 8 times before they will ever come in and see your product in a retail setting. So you have to know what the shopping sites are doing. You have to know a whole myriad number of other things as to how you're getting presented. So then let's go to the third phase. This is what we all love. When they actually say, I'm going to do it. I really want to contract you to help me do this. I agree, this is what I want to do, this is the results. That's the point that you have to have your plan in place. You have to deliver your results. This is huge in terms of what you can offer to the client, how you position them, or how you make them have the results that you've talked with them about. So that, well, I'm going to gloss over it because I want to get you to the next one. The next one is the critical part that we're going to focus on today. And that is, if they used your services and they began to know more about how you operate and what you do, and recognize the value of that to them, then they will move into the next phase, which is advocacy and referral. They could be a client for life, could be a transaction once, like selling a home, that you only work with them once every 5 years, 6 years, whatever the average is, which I'm sure is much longer now. Could be many different ways, but you need to recognize what that cycle is and how you need to adapt your business and the marketing plans for retention. We're going to focus on that, to adjust for this and to make sure they're staying in the market. How many of us have had a business, you go in, you do one transaction, you never hear from them. You've never heard from them. That's lost revenue, lost business. Networking is very important here because if people haven't tried your business, but they've gotten to know, like, and trust you through a networking group, they will still give you referrals for their clients or their contacts that have a business need that you can satisfy. So that's why when we talk about marketing plans specifically for client retention and referral, that's a key point of you getting more people into this whole process. So what are we going to do today? Next page is 5-step process. Okay? So rather than go through the 5 individually, I'm going to walk us through one by one. First is get client focused. Sit down, analyze what your business is. We all know that, you know, the top ones come in and you look at that. But I mean, sit down, what's your top 20% or 80% of your business? Which clients is that? What segments are they coming from? Is it geographically spread? Do I have clients in new areas that I didn't recognize were really using my service in a new way that maybe is an opportunity for me to grow my business further as we go forward? Very important that we sit down and analyze this. I'm going to talk in a minute. We're going to do a retention exercise. You can do that. But it's also segmentation, industry segmentation, etc., because all of that should feed back into our business development plan, which we're going to talk about in a while. But know who your accounts are, know where your growth is coming from, know where you're not doing so well anymore, so either you've lost presence or you weren't servicing your customers quite appropriately. Both of those are indicators. Then define what your optimum target industries are. One of the areas that most entrepreneurial business owners have a tremendous amount of error is they go off in every single direction and have impact in none. The reason we say specialize is because you have limited resources, time and dollars, so focus those in the avenue that is either currently generating a lot of your revenue and you need to protect it again from a client retention or mining that vertical, we would say, or It's an area that you see as an avenue for continued growth or advancement. And if you worked that harder in terms of your contacts, your networking, and your personal development plan, you would be able to generate results. I'm going to make one caution. I'm not talking about it a lot, but your reputation and your service excellence in this day and age has to be above, way above the cut. You cannot do an average job and survive as a consultant, as a product person, or as a service person. I think we all know that, but I know many times when I sit down with the business owner and I say, okay, tell me the horror stories. What are we looking at here? Why do I see 15,000 this year and 0 this year? Well, we didn't make the shipment on time. Okay, what have you done for that client? They still should be in your client retention program. They still should have touches. It's not like I'm so embarrassed to walk away. Sometimes saving a client from an issue or a disaster is actually a stronger way to get them to be your advocate. Different thought. Consistent communication. We're going to talk a lot about that as we get into but it's absolutely key to retaining your clients. They know you, they've got a good idea, they've purchased your product or service, they know what you do, but you're not in the forefront of their mind. So if you're not with them, talking to them, being engaging in terms of your networking, your blog, whatever it may be, you're going to lose them. They're going to find, the newest person they met in the networking group, the next time they need your service, may be the one they call, rather than you who's given them excellent service. You can't expect them to remember you. Development of trust. This is something that happens by, again, service excellence, but it's also a relationship over time. Many of these take time to develop, and thinking about what are the steps for your business model in developing those long-term relationships is really critical. Sit down and think that through. What are my best successes with clients? What have the touch points been? How have I communicated with them? How have I serviced them? And do I really have a good long-term relationship with that client? Can I expect them to be there? I mean, sometimes that's a lot of introspection we need. Understand and define the metrics for client retention. Okay, the last page, I'm going to find a pretty little sheet that's got some yellow stuff on it. And when I look at client retention, it's one of the first things I talk with my clients about. We look at segmentation, we look at client retention. So what I've done here is show you a very simplistic way to analyze, it's the last page, looks like this, to say, what is my client retention? How many of you know what your client retention is in a number of clients, 2009 to 2010? How many you kept and did business with? Okay, that's important. You need to know that. So what I've done here is given you just really an exercise of how I look very simplistically at a client's retention. 2010, 2009, line them up, figure out what the differences are. I always look at what's the percentage of that as it related to the base year of 2009. And then that outside column is plus or minus. Did I increase the business or did we decrease the business this year? So on the bottom is the actual calculation. When you look at client retention, I try to look at the base year, which in this case was 2009, as part of what of that actually carried through, and I had business in 2010 as far as the increase or staying with me. So those are the numbers that are highlighted in here. So I actually had out of this portfolio of 20 clients, 15 of the clients in number terms stayed with us, continued through my company in 2010. So 15 clients, very simple, 15 over 20, I get a 75% retention rate. Now, you can also, some people play with the dollar amounts there. It's an interesting study to look at if you've got an average sale of, $890, take those that had an increase or decrease over that amount and look at those. And there's an outside column here for comment. That's where the work begins. Why? Are they now buying from somebody else and you because they're concerned about what's going to happen? Did their business take such a tumble that you think they'll come back when the economy changes? But you should be able to answer those questions. If not, you're not building a long-term relationship with your clients. You're there as a vendor. And we all know what happens. You're going to get the RFP dropped on your desk and you're going to be treated just like everybody else. You don't want that. So that's the number of clients. On the percentage of dollars, I take these same numbers and I look at what is the 51,000 of my 65, I retained. That was my base. I went forward. That's a good number. If you get a $66,000 business and you know 2010 is down 10%, well, now if I take this year's number and I use my 75% client retention, or I use my what I think is going to happen, I better start working to fill that portfolio. Okay? Very simple. So in dollar terms, it ends up to be 86.9% because they retained the larger customers. I one year took a whole lower queue of my $400 and less accounts and purposely raised them because what we were doing for them was just, it wasn't paying off from a cost perspective. So I knew what I did to my retention rate the year I did that. But I also improved the profitability of my business and had more sales. So it's those types of things that retention can have. But in your mind, you should know this. The other that you should be aware of is what is your industry statistic? What is what's the percentage that your other people in similar businesses have? Industry can't give that to you, but you might be on an advisory council, franchisee advisory council. You might get this from, if you're involved with a licensing, whether you get that where somebody else is. What's my retention rate? What should it be? Is there a normal cycle? But it's important to know the metrics, and we'll talk metrics on an ongoing basis. Okay, number 2. What am I doing from here? Whoa, I gotta move. Create a vision of the relationship. Okay, this one, this is kind of the sit in your office with the door closed and think. What is it that I have in terms of the relationships with my clients today that is really differentiating me from being a vendor? What is it that I can do to foster and position myself even more strongly in an industry? Now, I'm going to say if you're a professional services person, that's speaking at conferences, that's being present at conferences, it's writing articles, it's blogging. If you're on the business to consumer side, it's the same thing. But you're going to position yourself a little more broadly in terms of the information that you're providing. Usually it's more than just about my product and service. It could be about how it works in relationship to its use by the client. So, increasing customer loyalty, that we talked about that. I'm not going to go through that. You do need to know what the value drivers are. Position yourself as a thought knowledge leader. Speaking engagements, newsletters. I'm going to go back, and I know we all think we receive too many newsletters, but you got to have a newsletter that engages. You've got to not write the boring newsletter like everybody else writes. You put in the headers. You put in the 1, 2, 3, this is my articles. You don't give them a whole litany that they got to scroll down 25 pages. So we'll talk about that. But they got to know that your thought leadership, it's not a canned program that you just copy and spit out. They want you. They want your knowledge. That's how you become a valued resource to them. Then lastly, I'm going to say define allied industries or services or even the vendors in your pipeline. If you are a distributor and you have product vendors, who did they go see? Why did they go see them? What kind of industries are they in? Gather the information. Use them as alliance partners. Partnership, referral fees back and forth in many industries are commonly paid. So partner, look at, in your contacts, in your network, in your own client base, who are the vendors that maybe could help you get into new accounts? What are the other service providers that may be looking to approach the CFO of a business just as you are? And you can exchange, a friendly exchange, and add value to that CFO's life because of the other products and services that you know of or are aware of. Okay, so here it is. Create a retention and a referral marketing plan. Before you go out and do it and just decide I'm going to do this or I'm going to do this, decide what you want. If 75% retention is what you had last year, and you want to at a minimum stay at 75, and you really want to focus on, okay, how am I going to retain that 75, but I need to go get some big whales, that's fine. That's a strategic decision as to how you want to run your business. Just write it down, put it in a plan, and get the initiatives and the strategies lined to execute against it. So when we talk retention, I'm going to talk specifically on the retention side and the referral side. What are you doing specifically in those areas to grow those businesses and use those tactics? Referral, I treat referrals very similar. As you saw the metrics on retention, what organizations do you belong to? How are you allocating your time? We'll come back to that. And what are you getting from those networking organizations? are most of your referrals coming from? If they're coming from your current clients, that is great. How can you foster that? What more can you do? Ask them. Go in and work with them. Ask them what another direction is. Or replicate, if you have a valued relationship with a client that has referred other clients, use it as a case study. What results did you give that company that made them so excited about you that they became your advocate and talked to you about other people? It sounds elementary. We all talk about it. But you really have to be planful and put it into your plan, because the other thing is, we're going to do, as I said in the end, we're going to do a business development little test. And you'll find it always ends up to be the end of the rope and never gets done. So, and the referrals, identify if you are running campaigns, if you are doing special promotion areas, if you have an event, measure the results, keep track of who came, understand what your metrics are, and you should also start using that as a gauge to benchmark how you're going to go forward and what you're going to invest in. Remember, your marketing dollars are an investment in your future. Okay, so here's some of the details. How do you show clients you care? This is dependent on industries to a great extent. But first is, talk to them. Let them know how good you are at what you do. What professional associations you belong to. Many of you have met me, know me, but you didn't understand that I have a CPA certificate and an MBA. Now, did that make my human capital go up a little in your eyes? Maybe, maybe not. If I told you I was from Wisconsin right now, probably not. But educate your clients. The more they know about you, the more they know how you've helped another client, even if it's a competitor of theirs, the more they're going to want you to help them. So you can mask names. You don't have to say. You don't have to have the testimonial, written by the client necessarily. But write the white paper. What you did and how it impacted their business or their operations. What were the results? And then use that white paper through, depending on your clients, some are still reading hard copies, so you may have to send it to them with a nice letter attached. Some may read emails, and some may be reading your newsletters. So just discuss it. Use that as information to leverage and buoy your human capital in terms of what you're offering. Keep in touch programs at a minimum. And I have to say, and some of you may have heard me, I talk about segmentation, and really quickly. When you look at your client list, you have your A's. Great customers, large volume, they know how you work, they're easy to work with, you'll love them, keep them going. B's are, they got a little business with me and probably a little business elsewhere, but I'm not, our relationship isn't solid, they're not an A. Either they might never be an A because they may not be large enough for how you segment. The C's are the ones that are kind of there, that if you worked with them, they might still be too small and you're not real sure. You either want to move them up to B's or you want to drop them. And the last category is D's. And get rid of the dogs. You can't have them. Segment your client list, segment your targets of what you're going for, and match it and go through it. If they're B's, what can you do to move them to A's? How can you, if you're sharing any, you know that they've got somebody else doing another area. And for example, I'm a marketing services person. I have strategies and strategic plans, but I know they're doing their emailing rather than doing it with me in constant contact. They're using another list provider. Interestingly, they're doing it themselves. Well, that's a trade-off, but I need to go back now and strengthen the relationship to say, how are you doing on your opens? What are you doing here? Let me help you with your next newsletter. No charge, complimentary. Let me just help you before you send it out. Let's look at it and see if I can bump the language a little or if I can give you a slightly different focus. Those are the things, those are the ways you grow your business. Knowing that they're a B and trying to get them up to an A is just exactly that. What is it that I'm going to do with the individuals in that portfolio, the businesses in that portfolio? Communication tools. You have got to communicate. You cannot be out of touch. You cannot not be there. So what are you going to communicate about? The industry, successes you have had or your vendors have had. A lot of it, new product announcements, new way. People are information gathering at an alarming rate. And you all know, how often do you all sit down and go, where the heck did my day go? I had great information, I got a lot out of it, but I lost 3 hours. Okay, that's what's happening. Because we've become content junkies. We want that information. We want to look at all that. Frankly, on the internet, either through search or through direct mail promotions, and email. rather than waiting to go or going out and finding it ourselves. Consistent and systematic. You need to put a plan together. Don't kill yourself. Don't write a newsletter every other month. You're not going to do it. I'll give you 2 months max and you'll be done. If you've got a staff that can do parts of it, fine. Have them get into Constant Contact and learn how to use it. It's an easy tool. They're a chamber member. We've got a discount. You know your open rates, your response rates. So I always say, split it. If you've got 300 people on one list, use one header, use one kind of newsletter, and try a different one on another one. You can split your list and find out. It's called A/B testing. See what works best. What do your clients really want to know? Okay? But communicate regularly, systematically. Send out fun things. I mean, I'm a holiday, I should say I own Heartfelt Charity Cards, holiday greeting card company, which I still think is absolutely perfect to remain in contact. It's one of those touch points. However, one of the areas that I coach my clients is let's choose a technology, ERP day. And we talked about it at length, and we didn't want to call it, we called it something else, not ERP. But make it yours. Own it. Tell them about it 6 months before it happens. Tell them about it 4 months, what you're doing. If you're going to have a gala, if you're announcing a new product, if you're whatever you're doing, make it the maypole that they want to be part of, and wrap around it. It should be part of your culture. Then every year you celebrate Technology Day, ERP Day, whatever you want to call it, but something that's yours. Your competition doesn't have it, and nor do the other people. As they're looking at it, it's a way to engage again. Social media platforms, it's all about content and it's all about engagement. Do not start a blog if you have nothing to say. Please. There are enough of those out there. Okay? And don't start it because you think you want to tell the world what you know and how they should think about it. Only start it if you're in a niche, your knowledge and your thought leadership is developing or is there, and your clients want to hear it. Don't write it for you. Write it for them. Look at some of the top, I always look at the top marketing. I get the marketing blogs. But I also look at the top blogs overall. See what they're doing, how they're using the social media platforms to get information, but not just to push out information, but to engage their people. This is how you find out about new products, adaptations to processes. How are they making what you need, or how are they making your results with them even better? Bring that information in. Send links to articles. I mean, if you're in the industry, that should be standard practice. Not sure if you saw this. I work with a client on radio frequency, and there's lots of new things in radio frequency that are totally outside the current people that are using it. New applications being developed all the time. Great way for me to keep in contact with some of my past contacts and say, RFID, you might want to look at this. There's some technology here that's really miniaturized. Could be good in your application. Those are the things that make them think you are on their side, you really are thinking about them long term. The other that I don't have here is just calling them to say hi, I'm checking in. Wanted to know, I know you don't need my service today, we just did this, or I don't know if you do, it's really not what I'm calling, but I am highly networked, and I do have a lot of people that are very good people at what they do. So if you have a need for something, give me a call. You become the go-to person. I get calls all the time. Nikki, do you know this? Nikki, do you know this? Yep, call this person and this person. And many times I give them 2 or 3 names, because those are individuals that I know, I network with, I trust, but they have to develop a rapport and be responsive and be interactive with that individual to make it happen. So use your resources, all of them. Thank you programs. I cannot push this enough. Business to business study of people losing clients, and it's probably back 4 years now. The biggest reason people left their current supplier was that they felt the business didn't care. 70% of the time. B2B marketing, they just felt it was a transaction, all you wanted was the sale, and you're gone. Now, as a marketing person, and also wearing sales hats, sometimes there's conflict there. But what we need as an organization, you need in your organization, is a spirit of thank you. We appreciate your business. You need to say it. You need to repeat it. You need to continue to express your gratitude. You can do it with taking them to a Bulls game. You can do it with many, many different ways. But focus on what is right. And it may be different for certain clients that cannot accept. There's a lot of industries cannot accept gifts, can't do that. But there's other ways of saying thank you. And that's what you need to do. And I would also say, many times it's not one person in the organization. There's several of them. So, you know, taking in popcorn on, you know, such and such a day or next time you're visiting that everybody can share is, those are the types of sweet touches that people remember, even if they don't remember your newsletter. Yeah, say it and mean it. You know what? We don't say it enough. It's kind of like after a while you look at it and you tell your kids you love them and you know you love them, but you kind of say it offhandedly as you walk out the door. You know, say it and mean it. Look them in the eye. Call them and say, you know, I really got to tell you, you made my year last year. Thank you. Not only from a professional standpoint, but I really enjoyed the intellectual stimulation you give me. Wow, what a way to reach out. What a way to make your clients feel like you really do care. And you know what? If you don't, then you better do something about it. Help them move to somebody else if that's the case. Or you're in the wrong industry and you're doing something you don't like and you need to get out of it. Because life is way too short. You've got good people, you've got good clients. They should be engaging. They should be intellectually stimulating. They should think the same of you. So that's something you've got to work at. Okay, this is a summary. What does it give you in results? Better long-term relationships, improved loyalty from your customers, good communication, open communication rights, builds your brand, all of that. So let me go through the personal business development plan. I'm sorry, I'm talking at you so much. But I'm going to do it for another 2 minutes. Personal business development plan. One of the areas that I find as entrepreneurs, well, 2 things actually. One is what I call the shiny object syndrome, which means whatever new idea, and sometimes it's in that 3 hours that I just read on the internet, whatever new idea that you've got or somebody brings to you and you think, boy, you know, I should learn more about that. That's a really good idea. And you go off like this and you go do that. Called the shiny object syndrome. Tomorrow, somebody's going to walk in and say, hey, I've got a marketing program for you. It's a killer. There's no way you can lose with this one, and you're going to take another hour or 2 out of your day to understand that and think, boy, I wonder if that would work for me. Let me think. Da, da, da. And that's where you get in trouble. If you don't plan and you've got the shiny object syndrome, you spend a lot of time doing that. The second is, I think a lot of us sometimes go to networking events in that same way. I go, I meet a lot of people. Yeah, I had one good contact. I had a whole bunch I don't even remember what they did. I got a bunch of business cards. Okay, that's not the way to go to these. You all know it. I'm not going to preach it. But what I am going to preach is, what are you worth? In your mind, you got to figure what is your billable hour. And if anything you're doing, or the person that you're spending time with is not worth that, I was an attorney, it could be $400. If they're not worth that, then what are you doing? How are you spending your time? Think about every single hour of your day, your productive day, as billable. Who would you bill that? Did I have enough quality in what I did, either with the client, for the client, or in what I was investigating with them, or what I was doing to make it worthwhile? 2, the second one here is just, I look at it 3. Are you just fulfilling your network commitments because you're involved in a group? Are you actually developing a referral network, helping them understand what it is you need, helping them get referrals, helping them get business? Or are you actually closing business? Are you really working it? And I think you've got to look at it. We've become network has become like the new mantra. We need to look at it and look at it critically for the success of our business. How are you keeping current on your industry? Tactics, programs that other industry players are using that work. Emulation is great. Don't be afraid of it. Go out and try it. No question. Philanthropy. How many of you have a commitment to an organization or some type of cause that makes your business look a little bit more worldly, sophisticated, and philanthropic than your clients? No. Okay? It's good. That's, people just don't want to think, it's not all about dollars. Evaluate your activities and what you got back. Referrals, hours, track your metrics. Write them down. Keep track of the referral. I don't mean your whole life should be like a BNI. However, there's something very good about BNI. At the end of the year, when you come up to pay that $365, you know whether you really got referrals and got business out of it or you didn't. And you should also look at how many you gave, how many referrals you gave. But it's a good measure. We should be thinking that, we should kind of have a clipboard in our head for GLMV membership, for any other organization that you belong to. Okay? But you got to tie that into your plan. So, let's go to the next page. Here's your worksheet. And I realize this is a little small, so I'm going to tell you what it says. It was supposed to be up here, and I'd be happy to send it to you. Actually, you can have, if you'd like me to send the whole deck out to you, just leave me your business card. But what it is I look at, one of the things I try to help my clients work on is more business development. That's why it's called Schuh Business Development Services. And one of the things I help them do is allocate their time. So you start out, let's say you work a 50-hour week. 4 weeks a month, you've got 200 hours. Now, let's start taking out of that what is your business meetings, the association meetings you go to, the charitable boards you sit on, etc. Let's put that down, line by line, what you're doing and how many hours you spend per month on each. Then take out, you got to run your business. So what is your bill, what time is administrative that you have to take out? Weekly, monthly, whatever. If it's weekly, multiply it by 4. And how much time do you spend doing those tasks? Collections, financial, statements to the bank, administrative. Then how much of the day do you sometimes get a personal appointment? The kid needs a haircut, I got to take that one to the doctor, et cetera, et cetera. Then how much is doing the work? Once you've got a contract signed for a product or service, you got to deliver on it. Many of us are sole proprietors, so we're delivering on it ourselves and or using a team and working with that team to understand what we want. So if you look at an average month and you look at January, what's today, January 26th, look at this month. Take this month. How many hours did you actually do the work of your business? Then the bottom one here, goal-oriented relationship management and client retention. Somehow this always ends up on the bottom. And normally what happens is when I start working with clients, the top numbers up there sum to over the 200 hours. And they really have no time left for retention of clients. When you talk about, what did you do last year for, your top client? Well, we did this, we went to this ball game together, and that was about it. And it's like, okay, and that's your top nut, that's your big guy, that's your whale. What else can you be doing? And some of them are like sending the articles. Some of them are areas that an assistant can help you with or a marketing person can help you with. But look at it from an organizational perspective as well. What should you be selling? If you're the rainmaker, which many of us are as the owner of the business, then you're the one that should be doing that a lot more. So what we do is try to set up what that number should be per month, block it on a calendar. I say let's put Monday morning, 2 hours. You're going to do LinkedIn. You're going to make those connections. You're going to make 10 calls per month. It might be all you have to make. And all you're doing is call and say hi. Or I'm going to be at this industry show. Let me know if you're coming. Whatever. But it's that engagement and that long-term relationship building that we're really focused on when we look at this number. And I will tell you, it usually squeezes itself out. And then we wonder when we look at our retention statistics, why is this one going downhill? I wonder why I lost, I haven't talked to Sam in 6 months. I wonder why I lost it. He was really a big account for me. Either Sam is having trouble of his own, which if he is, you should sure be talking to him. Because if you're talking to him now, when he comes out of that, guess who he's going to call? Or he's not there, which we have too. Then let's help those people get jobs. I mean, there's a lot of other areas of play. So, that is, I will send this to you if you leave me your business card. Happy to, so you can actually read it and fill it out. Sorry, I didn't think about that when we did it. Questions, comments, thoughts, please. And you were so helpful. I'm sorry. Would you please introduce yourself? I don't.
Oh, my name's Casey.
Okay, Casey. Thank you.
You had mentioned blogs and the power of blogs. I'm a big believer in that. I'm looking to start one, and I'm as I'm looking, there was something that I found on a social network, and if you guys want to either give me your cards or you can take my email address, I have a list of the top 10 business and marketing blogs. Some of you may have seen it already, but it's just a nice little something to benchmark off of. If you wanted that information, I could share
also
that
read
with
not
you.
only
This is a
my own-
benchmark.
I also read not only I read the marketing ones avidly, but I also read other industries where my clients are, because they don't always know some of the things that are happening, and it's better for me than to be able to bridge what we're doing or what we've talked about doing but not signed the contract on as to how that would be beneficial in his industry or how I see those tie-ins to market growth. So absolutely.
On the client acquisition cycle in the fourth box, you
Client acquisition.
glossed over the 250 by 250
Oh,
rule.
I'm sorry. Okay.
What is that?
Book by Referral of a Lifetime. Tim Templeton wrote a book in 2003. And that is that every person, if they sit down and write out their contacts, knows 250 people on average. But every one of those people knows another 250. So getting to know your 250 better and being able to be introduced to the next 250 is really what LinkedIn has taken to epic proportions. But that's really when we talk 250 by 250, and you're right, I'm sorry. Those are the ones, if they're your clients, those are the ones that you should be asking for testimonials. You should be asking, can I write a white paper on this? I won't even say what just the industry. I'll say, I won't even say, I won't put your name in it. You might say, hey, you can put my name in it. Put it on your website. So it's searchable. Done?
Out of your 200 hours per week,
Yeah, per month, yes.
what do you, I bet you it's more than that actually,
Oh.
but if you're on your 200 hours a week, how much of that time do you spend in the marketing blogs or whatever?
I probably spend a lot more in front of television in the evenings reading the blogs, so I probably don't even count that as much as I do. I mean, Seth Godin writes me every day. I can't read that one every day. No, I read the header.
More productive than TV, I can tell you.
Yeah, well, and you're right. And so that's one of the areas that I do. LinkedIn is one I tell people, just like administrative, put it on your calendar, get it done, get it off your desk, get rid of it. You know, LinkedIn, stay connected, keep working it. And I've been really bad at it. You know, but it does help. It is now being actually dollarized and valued, and there's a return on it in financial terms. Okay.
Just a question, when you were showing us your client retention spreadsheet, what, do you also do a client acquisition spreadsheet to determine where, and then taking the two and look at client replacement?
Absolutely. No reason why not. And that's why I said when I took that whole bottom 400 and less and said, your prices are going to be higher, and you know what? I lost it. So quite a bit of it was purposeful.
So like,
absolutely. And that's what.
when you
that's
lost
why,
the 25%, do you then see who you acquired that year, how you acquired them?
Right.
And did they replace adequately or not adequately where you were?
Absolutely. And all I would say with that is sit down and planfully say, okay, when I'm going to get rid of that group, and I will substitute it with this, and then put the marketing plans behind getting to this market, this target segment. Absolutely. Thoughts, questions? Was it helpful? Was it worth your lunch?
Oh, yeah.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Thank you.